keep your eyes and ears open for that. Today we're going to continue on through the minor prophets. Remember, they're minor not because of their importance, but because of their size. And last week we looked at Jonah, and so today it's Micah's turn. Jonah was a lot of fun, and I got a lot of comments in that sermon. I put it up on YouTube, so it's on our First Pres Oxnard YouTube site if you want to look at it, or you missed it, or you want to point anyone there. But today we look at Micah. So as usual, I'm going to hit several scriptures from the prophet that we're studying. And Micah, if you want to follow along, he's in there somewhere. What page is he on? Who's got it? 1399. Thank you. 1399. All right. Remember the 1990s? Can you remember back that far? We had a strong economy. We had fun-loving leaders like Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, and everybody was just so happy. And they were. It's not just them; they reflected our nation, right? Fat, dumb, and happy. Things were coasting along. Everyone was just cruising. And it's like it was back in the days of Micah. In the days of Micah, everyone, if you read this text, you'll see that everyone was just satisfied, especially the leaders. Well, everyone who had stuff. I mean, those who didn't have, of course, weren't satisfied, but we didn't really pay much attention to them in the 1990s as in the days of Micah. But another thing was happening during the days of Micah is that there was this growing international menace to the northwest, to northeast rather, and in the area of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And this was the menace called Assyria. And people in Israel and Judah, they were aware of Assyria. They were aware of this growing international menace, but it was the 1990s, right? They didn't pay much attention to them. They were fat, dumb, and happy. They had their own version, I'm sure, of Alan Greenspan, and things were, Paul Volcker, whoever, and things were running well. And they decided, look, we're just going to insult these people. We're just going to say, look, they're our enemies, but we're not really even going to take them super seriously. And we're not even going to take our own problems seriously. We're just going to go on as if everything will always go on as it has gone on. Sometimes we do that, not just national leaders, but we as individuals, when things seem to be going well, even though there are signs out there that something isn't quite right, or signs in our heart maybe that something isn't quite right, instead of taking a look at ourselves, we go and we point the finger at others, or we just ignore everything and cruise on as if things will keep on going on the way they've gone on. Think that's true? I think that happens in the lives of nations, in families, and individuals. What Micah wants to do here, as he gives these oracles of prophecy, he wants God's people to take a look at themselves, their relationship with God, and their relationships with others, especially those less powerful than themselves. And so I want to lift up in Micah three emphases of his, which go in that direction. First, put the slide up. Those with power and influence are responsible to live for others. If we use our power for selfish gain, we'll end up losing everything. And here, especially on this point, and especially in the way Micah presents this point, Micah sounds a lot like Amos. Remember Amos several weeks back? Really speaking harshly against leaders who are in it for themselves and don't consider others. Look at Micah chapter 2, for example. Micah chapter 2, verse 1, he starts out by saying, "Woe to those who plan iniquity, to those who plot evil on their beds." So even before they get up, they're thinking, what dastardly deed can I do today? It sounds like those cartoon villains, they're just really, or Batman's opponents, the Riddler, the Joker, they're just really thinking, what menace can I create today, even before they get up. Then when they get up at morning's light, they carry it out because it is in their power to do it. So they do evil, why? Because they can. They do wrong things because they can get away with it because they're the powerful ones. They covet. Isn't that one of God's commandments, not to covet something that's not yours? They covet. They desire and seek after fields, so they're going after agricultural lands, and seize them, and houses, and take them. This is similar to what happened to people in Zimbabwe around the year 2000 when we first got there, 10 years ago. The government came in and said, you guys just take whatever you want. Why? Because we say you can. So they gave people power to take lands and fields and seize them. And so they defraud a man of his home, a fellow man of his inheritance. So people are in league with others, and they go after people who are less powerful than themselves, and they take whatever they want. It's like the mafia. This word that Micah opens up with, woe. Remember the Fonz used to say that? If you want to think even back beyond the 1990s, the Fonz used to say, woe. Well, this is a different kind of woe. This is woe meaning, alas, doom is coming. It's a word that's supposed to grab your attention. It's like, hey, stop in your tracks, change your behavior because you're about to get slammed. What was happening was socially rich and powerful landlords in Israel were behaving unethically by seizing land and destroying the homes of their fellow countrymen who were unable to defend their rightful possessions because they were less powerful. So, and beyond what they did, the deeds that they did, and the obvious wrong that they committed, the injustice, they were making a mistake not only in relationship to their fellow man and woman, but as far as their relationship with God went. Because theologically they were thinking that, hey, this land belongs to us. Instead of believing that the land belonged to God and to the covenant community whom He gave it to in order to serve Him. This goes to our whole view, our whole theology of stuff and of life. Is it ours when we earn it or steal it or whatever we do to get it? Is it really ours? Or does it really belong to God, and does it come to us as a gift? And then as a gift, isn't it our responsibility to share it with others? This goes to how we deal with money and financial management. That's why we're offering this course. It goes to how we deal with how much we put in the offering plate. It goes to how much we give to the poor, how we invest our lives in people out there versus just keeping our own lives all tightly bound up so no one, can get in there and affect us. I mean, it goes to everything. How do you think of your life? How do you think of your stuff? Is it mine or is it God's on loan to me so I can share it with others? Think about it. Another scripture under this same emphasis of Micah is Micah 3. Micah 3:11. Another example of how this kind of stuff was happening in Israel and how it happens in every society. Micah 3:11. Her leaders judge for a bribe. Her priests teach for a price, and her prophets tell fortunes for money. These were the three leadership functions in Israel. Judges/kings who ruled, priests who stood before God and led worship in the temple, and prophets who spoke the word of the Lord out there in the public and were supposed to challenge people in power. But all three of these leadership categories were corrupted. Now, we know that our society has a lot of that going on, right? As does every society. But it's just a reflection of the way the people are, isn't it? Of the way we are as human beings. They make the further mistake, as Micah goes on in verse 11, yet they lean upon the Lord and say, and this is the corrupted leaders, they say, isn't the Lord among us? No disaster will come upon us. We make a similar mistake. We say, and we go back, maybe we don't do that anymore as far as economic realities here in 2010. We certainly did in the 1990s. Isn't Alan Greenspan among us? Isn't someone out there running the economy? Won't it just keep on going and going and going and going without us having to care about